Hello everyone, welcome to Tusemezane. This is Dennis Ondeki, your host. Today we are privileged to have a new guest in the station, and we are going to learn a lot. I'm asking you to be attentive, don't move. Just for the few minutes we are going to share something great for you today. So welcome to this channel today, and we have our visitor today. Welcome to Tusemezane. Please introduce yourself to the channel.
My name is Steve Bust, and I'm a retired Canadian journalist. I spent nearly 40 years in the business, working at newspapers in Canada, and for the last 2 years I have been coming to Africa to try to help train university journalism students and working journalists, and try to pass on a little bit of my expertise, I guess. I was mostly an investigative reporter and feature writer back in Canada.
Thank you. So most welcome to Tusemezane channel, and we are glad that you are with us today. Now, you have said you have had almost 40 years of experience. That's a very big milestone. How can you transition these 40 years of experience to these days journalism?
So I think the basic practice of journalism, in terms of the objectives, and I think in terms of the goals, the way that we do it, the way that we put stories together, I don't think that's changed a lot over time. And so, being in the business for 40 years gave me a long time to pick up a lot of tricks, I guess, a lot of techniques.
Yeah.
And, when I retired, I thought that it would be great to put all of these ideas and techniques and tips, put them all down in one place, and then pass on to some African journalists, the benefit of the experience that I gained over all of these years.
Yeah, thank you. Now we can just little bit talk about the generation of yours and the generation we have now. There is a big difference. How can you see it affecting the journalism of these days?
Yeah, what's going on here in Rwanda in journalism and what's going on in other African countries is really no different than what's happening back in my country of Canada or other industrialized Western countries. It's the same fight everywhere. The traditional news outlets, things like newspapers, radio stations, television stations, that were the primary place for news for people. They still exist, but their popularity has dropped. And with the onset of internet websites, online news sites, just the fact that there are so many different platforms, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Snapchat, TikTok, Twitter, there's so many choices now for people to get information. And that's really what journalism is. It's just providing people with information.
Yeah.
And now there's so many options, and the people are almost overwhelmed with choices. They almost don't know where to go anymore because they're just bombarded with information all of the time. And so it's a real challenge for people to try to figure out, how do I grab people and how do I pull them into where I am and get them to pay attention to me. And like I said, it's not just here, it's not just in East Africa, it's not just in Africa, it's everywhere in the world.
Now, the challenges you have, we can say they are not very different from what the young journalists may be having for now. And I would like to know, you have worked in the work for 40 years, good years. What sustained you there?
I think I was lucky because I did a number of different jobs. So, I was always getting a taste of something different. And with each one of those jobs, you pick up a few skills here and there. And, then, by luck, I guess, I was able to sort of migrate into investigative journalism and data journalism and feature writing. And, that's where I spent close to the last 25 years of my career. And that was the area that was a real passion for me. And as I mentioned to the students, a lot of that is because I didn't come up as a trained journalist. I was a human. I went through the university in human biology. I thought I was going to be a scientist, and so investigative journalism and science, there's many things that are similar between them, and I think that's why I loved investigative journalism, because it was so much like the process of science, where it's like you're conducting a scientific experiment, except you're doing it with words. So.
It seems like you liked mostly doing this in investigative journalism, and maybe for the benefit of our viewer and maybe the journalists who are coming up, can you shed up some light about investigative journalism? Can you shed some light?
Yeah, I mean, investigative journalism it's tough because it requires a lot of resources. It requires a lot of time. As I've mentioned in some of the project that I've worked on, it would take months. In some cases, it might have taken years, not constantly, but it might have evolved over the space of a couple of years. And that's a long time to let somebody devote themselves to pursuing one investigative project.
Yeah.
And if you're working in a newsroom, that has to produce content all the time, it's hard to take somebody out of that mix and say, okay, go off and work on this for weeks or months, and knowing that you're going to get one project out of it. And so it's a very big commitment in terms of resources. And the other reason it's a challenge is because it's still just journalism, in the sense that it's all the same techniques and everything, but the people who do it tend to have a little bit higher level of either skill or the ability to do certain specific types of tasks. And so there's not a lot of people that have that skill set. And so, you've got not a lot of people that know the skill set, plus it's a big commitment of time. So it's very difficult to produce good investigative journalism.
Wow. So congratulations for all those years you have been as an investigative journalist. I understand you've done a lot. As you've been sharing some of the things we've seen, you have done a big job. So actually, for these young people who are having a passion of being in investigative journalism, there are some dangers maybe. Are there some dangers they can encounter? And maybe you can tell us and share with us how they can avoid those dangers, because it's dealing about information and you are touching a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, I think the danger part of it is more related to where you might be living. I think, in Canada, I was never really ever personally in danger. I never thought that my life was at stake or that I was going to be physically harmed or anything. But I live in a country that has a very high degree of press freedom. So, you can say things that are against the government and, not be physically attacked for it. But I know that that's not the case everywhere in the world. And I know there are parts of the world, including here in Africa, where, governments are not open and receptive to investigative journalism, especially if it's investigative journalism that is against whatever a government might be doing. So I do realize that, my story is not the same story as it might be in Africa. And, Africa has to deal with, the big problem of corruption, which is not as much of an issue in Western countries. So yeah, I applaud and I admire all the African journalists in countries where it's dangerous who practice investigative journalism, because I never had to worry about that. And I'd like to think that I would have been brave enough to do that, but I don't know if I would have been.
Thank you. Does your parents had anything to do with your career?
No, they thought I was going to be a doctor, and I'm sure that for many years they were probably disappointed. But then they saw that I had a pretty good career and I had a lot of success, and I think they're very proud of me. I hope they are.
Okay, okay. Now, I'm happy that even sometimes the current generation we have, there's a lot of differences with the parents, though. Anyway, we hope that what children choose, they don't affect their parents negatively. I will ask maybe like 2 or 3 more questions. We have this issue of AI, the artificial intelligence, which is almost taking turn of journalists, especially the young ones who are coming up. Now, as somebody who has worked in this field for over 40 years, what do you see the role of AI in this journalism?
I think personally that I think it's got potential, but I think we're only at a point right now where it's more dangerous. So I think we're still more on the end of it being something dangerous than something positive. And the reason I say that is because, I've used this example before. Let's say you use ChatGPT or you use Google's Gemini AI function, and you ask something, hey, ChatGPT, please do this, or please get me all the information on this. And then it spits out its response to you. And what comes at the end of every response now? Well, there's a line at the end that says, ChatGPT can make mistakes, so don't trust what you're reading. Well, if something is telling me right off the bat that don't trust what I'm saying, I look at it and say, why would I trust you at all then? If you're going to tell me that some of the stuff that you're telling me may not be true, first of all, how am I going to know which is the true part and which is the not true part? And secondly, if that's the case, why am I even using you? So, I think if at the end of the day you ChatGPT or an AI machine spits something out at you, and then you've got to spend all of that time fact checking it to see if it was right, you might as well have just done the work yourself in the first place, because you haven't saved any time, But I think people like it because they see an answer and they just go, okay, well that must be true, so, and they plop it out and there it is.
I can see. So we have a long way to go about the AI, and we need to decide properly. That's what I think you are trying to say.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Now to just finish. What most challenge you got during these 40 years which even shaped you as a journalist in the field?
I don't know if I'd call it a challenge, but so I did mostly investigative journalism, and that's some pretty heavy duty, difficult stuff. And so when you're doing that all of the time, the more you do something, the better you get at it. But every time that you do an investigative project, particularly if it's about a really serious subject, you always have that weight on your shoulder of, did I do it right? Did I report everything accurately? Is everything that I wrote true? Was I fair? Was I balanced? And that weight never goes away, because as I've said to the students, your reputation is everything. And if you damage your reputation, if you damage your credibility, it is really, really difficult to get your reputation back. So, there's that constant pressure to make sure that you never do that. And so that was probably the biggest challenge.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing with us. Now give us the last message to our viewers, and as somebody who has worked for 40 years, just a final message to our viewers.
I guess my message is, I still believe in journalism. I still believe in the power of information. I still believe that what we do as journalists is important. I still believe that it's a noble profession. And I still believe that despite all of the challenges that we face right now, that people want and need information. And I would say, given events that are going on in the world right now, from one continent to another, that that true, accurate information has never been more important.
Thank you very much. That's a very good end, and we wish you the very best in your retirement time now, and find time again to join us in Tusemezane channel. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Thank you. I was your host, Dennis Ondieki, in this Tusemezane channel. I'm happy that you are following us. Continue sending your comments and your likes. We are going to compile and respond to you as soon as possible.